Okay, what I want to do before we get started on our analysis of Jeremiah Wright is just briefly disclose the association between Barack Obama and Mr. Wright, and report that it is far more than a loose-knit association. I think everyone knows this. Obama has been a member of Reverend Wright's congregation for over 20 years. Barack was married to his wife Michelle in the church by Mr. Wright, and both of the Obama's daughters were baptized by Mr. Wright in his church. Now that's considerable evidence that Obama is partial to Mr. Wright's philosophy and his peculiar worldview, though it's not conclusive. Okay, it's not conclusive. Let's not make the mistake of confusing one man's oratory with another man's willingness to listen. Blurring Obama's politics with Wright's worldview is something I disapprove of. Now in this video, we're going to be investigating Reverend Wright, not setting Barack Obama up as a straw man and augmenting any kind of sleaze against this candidate for the presidency of the United States. What we want to do is get to the facts supporting Reverend Wright's theological, social, and political positions, and not trying to create a scandal between these two men that doesn't already exist. Now, Jeremiah Wright's formation as a young man needs to be considered when trying to determine the essential features of his developed character and ego. Now, his early years were spent in both the Navy and Marine Corps during a tumultuous time in American history. Lest we forget, the civil rights movement was facing intense pressure, and dangerous days were still ahead. Now, after his tour in the service, he finished his undergraduate studies at Howard University in Washington, D.C., where, frankly, his anger was hardened and his toxic rhetoric began to take its influence and its shape. At Howard University, he learned the value of holding a grudge at any cost, no matter the truth, and at great speed began to loathe America, African Americans, and African American women. Now, at Howard University, he became steadfast in defending a racist ideology and vigorously defended a race-based system of salvation theology that originated in a perverse and unsound reading of Scripture. To fully understand how this early formation affected Reverend Wright, I think that we need to take a few minutes and discuss the curriculum, the faculty and staff of Howard University. Now, Howard University is greatly admired for its race-based separatist ideologies, which, though based in an improper understanding of Scripture, is rarely challenged or refuted by genuine scholars and theologians for fear of being marked as racists. The curriculum at Howard ties together the black identity covenants and uses the Bible as mere cover and decoration to mask its habitual diction of hate speech disguised as historical criticism, or even worse and blasphemous, as biblical virtue. Howard University has a long and venomous history, and it's often demonstrated its boundless and habitual anti-American sentiment by hosting events which regard leftist hate speech as admirable discourse. I'll give you an example. In April 2005, respected and esteemed Black Panther leader Elaine Brown was hosted by the faculty of Mr. Wright's notorious alma mater to bombast America under the emerald banner of social and political commentary. Her talk was popular and well received by a fascinated audience. It shouldn't come as any great surprise then that Mr. Wright was also allowed to speak at Howard University in 2006. Now, during this celebrated lecture of his, he remarked that there were more black men in prison than in college, and that no black man could ever be considered for the office of president, and that no black woman had any value outside of her sexual reproduction. Now, all of this he stirred into the cauldron, cooked it hot with allegations of racism as the only possible reason, and then delivered this poisonous and toxic blend of self-loathing dogma to a jubilant mob. Now, it's remarkable that any black in America would cheer at such a stinging and what I find offensive diatribe. but it happened. I'm terribly sorry that Mr. Wright has such a low opinion of blacks in general, and black women in particular. One prominent graduate of Howard University worth mentioning is Malik Shabazz, and he's pictured here. Mr. Shabazz is the leader of the new Black Panther Party, and while at Howard University he began the Unity Nation, an organization which is closely aligned with the leadership of the Nation of Islam. Mr. Shabazz claims that he was heavily influenced by the disreputed racist Louis Farrakhan, not to mention a well-known antagonist and race baiter named Khalid Abdul Muhammad, also pictured here.